I'm not so sure of the outcome, but I'm 99% positive it will work. And if it doesn't, then this video can help me, because all my father cares about is his reputation. He will kill people to protect his own reputation. He only cares about himself and his ego. So this video could save my life. And if you are watching this video, it's not such a good thing. Either I'm dead or I'm in a very, very, very bad situation. So where do I begin? In 2000, my sister Shamsa, while she was on holiday in England, she was 18 years old, going on 19, she ran away. And in the 2 months that she was free, we were in contact, and I was still in Dubai with my mom and my other sister, whereas she had traveled with her stepmom and all of them. So while she escaped because she didn't have much freedom in Dubai. She didn't have freedom to do the things that, anybody in a civilized world would take for granted, like driving a car or traveling or, just making choices for your own future. Freedom of choice is not something that, we have. So when you have it, you take it for granted. And if you don't have it, it's very...
Princess, a yacht in the middle of the ocean, a terrifying ambush at sea, and then silence. This isn't a Hollywood thriller. This is the real-life story of Princess Latifa of Dubai, who risked everything to escape the golden prison of royalty. But what really happened after she disappeared into the night? And who wanted her silent forever?
Welcome to The Silent Witness, where we highlight true crime news, unsolved mysteries, unfold chilling stories and events around us to educate and provide information on how we can stay proactive, informed, be security and safety conscious in our environment. The Silent Witness is your go-to destination for gripping accounts of real-life crimes, missing persons, cold cases, and unexplained events. Want to support us and appreciate our craft? Click like, comment, and hit the subscribe button now. Please note that all related materials referenced in this video were majorly sourced from either official court or police documents, reference statements, or other reputable sources, weeding out the speculation theories and unverified information.
Latifa bint Mohammed Al Maktoum was born on December 5, 1985, in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. Her father, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, is the ruler of Dubai and Prime Minister of the UAE, a man with immense power and influence not just within the UAE, but across the world. Her mother, Huraya Ahmed Al-Mash, was born in Algeria. Latifa has many siblings. Her father has had at least 6 wives and over 20 children, but she is the second daughter of Huraya and believed to be the 18th child overall. Among her full siblings are Sheikha Maida and Sheikha Shamsa, whose fates would also come to play roles in this dark royal narrative. From the outside, Latifa's early life seemed like a dream. She lived in sprawling palaces with golden ceilings and marble floors. She had private tutors, custom-designed clothing, and access to a world of unimaginable luxury. But on the inside, that palace was a prison. From an early age, Latifa realized something was off. The rules weren't just strict, they were suffocating. She wasn't allowed to travel without permission. She couldn't choose her friends or leave the compound freely. Any signs of rebellion were met with swift and merciless correction. Her life was managed down to the smallest detail, under the guise of royal decorum. In Emirati royal culture, princesses are viewed as extensions of the family's reputation. Their movements are tightly controlled. Their voices remain unheard in public matters. Obedience is not a suggestion. It is a commandment. Public appearances were staged affairs, carefully scripted, heavily guarded. Education, while top-tier in presentation, was often stifled by censorship and indoctrination. Latifa was educated with an emphasis on loyalty, modesty, and submission. She was taught that duty came before desire, family before freedom. But Latifa was different. From a young age, she harbored questions no one dared to ask. Why couldn't she travel freely? Why were her thoughts policed? Why did being a princess mean she couldn't be her own person? At 16, she made her first escape attempt. With help from a family friend, Latifa tried to flee across the border into Oman. But freedom would remain just out of reach. She was captured and dragged back across the border. What followed was years of darkness. Latifa was imprisoned in solitary confinement for over 3 years. She had no access to daylight, no interaction with the outside world. She was denied basic human dignity. She later revealed that she was beaten and tortured during her imprisonment. She said, "I was in solitary confinement, no access to the outside world, no trial, no charges. I was punished because I dared to want freedom. The trauma didn't break her, it hardened her resolve." When she was finally released, Latifa began a new form of rebellion. She took up martial arts and became a skilled skydiver. She studied foreign cultures. She carefully watched how the royal family controlled the narrative. And most importantly, she started planning. If she ever tried again, it wouldn't be a cry for help. It would be a mission. Why were royals like Latifa so desperate to leave? Because behind the gilded gates, behind the designer gowns and diplomatic dinners, lay a dark truth. The royal family lived in a state of intense paranoia. Control was everything. And for a woman, especially a daughter, to assert her independence was seen not just as defiance, but as betrayal. To leave was to humiliate the family. To escape was to challenge the patriarch. And for someone like Latifa, that meant one thing: disappear or be disappeared. Her cousin Shamsa had tried the same in 2000 while visiting the UK. She was reportedly kidnapped off the streets of Cambridge by Emirati agents and flown back to Dubai against her will. Since then, she has never been seen in public again. The lesson wasn't lost on Latifa. But unlike Shamsa, Latifa was determined not to vanish quietly. If she was going to run again, she would make sure the world heard her story, even if it killed her. The question wasn't if she would try again. The question was when, and how far the royal family would go to stop her. And so began the most dangerous chapter of her life. The journey from silence to defiance, from palace prisoner to runaway princess. A journey that would shake the world. She kept it buried for years, her most dangerous secret. Not a whispered word to the guards. Not even to her own sisters. Every step was calculated, every ally vetted. Escape wasn't a fantasy. It was an engineering project of the highest stakes. Latifa knew one thing above all. One mistake could mean death. It started with email accounts created in hidden locations. Encrypted chats using VPNs. She reached out to an old friend, Hervé Jaubert, a former French intelligence agent turned businessman who had once successfully escaped Dubai by donning a scuba suit and disappearing into international waters. If anyone knew how to evade the all-seeing eye of Dubai's surveillance state, it was Hervé. Their first conversation was a risk. Hervé was in the Philippines. Latifa watched day and night. Even gaining internet access required stealth. She had to convince him that this wasn't a prank. This was life or death. They communicated in short, coded bursts. She had everything planned down to the hour. First, she would leave Dubai in disguise. She would be driven to Oman by a trusted companion. From there, she would rendezvous with Hervé and his crew aboard the Nostromo, a US-flagged yacht waiting offshore. Once aboard, they would sail to India, Goa specifically. From there, Latifa would fly to the United States, where she would request asylum. It sounded almost cinematic, but for Latifa, this was survival. Everything was rehearsed, every escape route memorized, every emergency accounted for. But time was never on her side. At any moment, a guard could become suspicious. A friend could betray her. And all the while, the walls were closing in. Dubai wasn't just a city, it was a fortress. Its royal family had the loyalty of countless agencies, from intelligence operatives to private security contractors. Satellites tracked vehicles. Phones were tapped. Even birds couldn't fly unnoticed. And in that climate of hyper-control, Latifa's quiet rebellion was gaining momentum. But it wasn't just about leaving. It was about telling the world why. Before she boarded the yacht, Latifa recorded a 40-minute video. In it, she laid bare the truths the royal family worked so hard to keep hidden. She talked about her imprisonment, her torture, her sister Shamsa's abduction, the crimes against women hidden behind palace doors. "If you are watching this video," she said, "either I'm dead or in a very, very bad situation." She stared directly into the camera. Her eyes were calm, but steeled with fire. This wasn't just an escape. It was a message in a bottle thrown to the world. Plea for help. On the night of February 24, 2018, under a moonless sky, Princess Latifa stepped into the unknown. She wore a hoodie, dark jeans, a baseball cap pulled low. No diamonds, no crown, just fear and determination. Her driver, a close confidant who had sworn allegiance to her cause, navigated the car past the final checkpoint at the edge of Dubai. If anyone recognized her, it was over. She didn't speak. She didn't look back. Hours later, she crossed into Oman.
Want to support us and appreciate our craft? Click like, comment, and hit the subscribe button now.
There, hidden among the rocky coastlines of the Arabian Sea, a dinghy awaited her. It ferried her into the pitch-black waters where a larger vessel loomed just beyond the reach of radar. The Nostromo, Captain Hervé Joubert, stood at the stern, scanning the darkness. When he saw her climb aboard, the look on his face wasn't joy. It was awe. She had made it. The yacht turned, cutting through the waves under U.S. flags. Their course, India. The plan was working. For 8 days, they sailed undetected, deep into international waters. Latifa began to smile again. For the first time in years, she breathed freely. She read. She danced to music. She spoke freely. No walls. No surveillance. Freedom, however fleeting, was real. But they had underestimated the reach of a royal regime built on secrets. Unknown to them, the net was already tightening. Satellite pings, IP traces, informants. Someone had tipped off the Emirati authorities. And worse, the Indian government was now involved. Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum was not a man to be defied. When he discovered Latifa's escape, he reportedly activated an international manhunt. His daughter's defection wasn't just a family matter. It was a political disaster. To lose Latifa meant losing the illusion of perfection. It meant exposing the cracks in the glittering facade of Dubai's monarchy. And so, on March 4, 2018, just 50 miles off the coast of Goa, the ocean exploded. Out of the mist, speedboats surrounded the Nostromo. Masked men, heavy weapons, laser sights, Indian Coast Guard, UAE Special Forces. A joint operation, silent, swift, and without mercy. The crew had no time to radio for help. Smoke grenades rained onto the deck. Armed commandos boarded the yacht. Hervé was beaten, bound, and blindfolded. The crew was zip-tied, phones destroyed, GPS wiped. And Latifa? She ran below deck and locked herself in the bathroom, screaming, pleading, "They're here. They found me," she shouted into her last voice message, sent moments before the raid. "This is it." She was dragged out, kicking, screaming, sobbing. One crew member would later say they heard her cry, "Shoot me now. Don't take me back." But there would be no rescue, no miracle. Latifa was forced onto an Emirati warship that had arrived under the cover of darkness. She was gone, vanished, and just like that, silence. The outside world knew nothing. No reports, no confirmations, just a missing princess, and a very convenient blackout. But Latifa had left behind something powerful, her voice. The video she recorded before the escape was now in the hands of trusted allies. They released it to the world. And the world listened. Human rights groups, UN officials, and celebrities demand answers. Dubai remains silent. The silence following Princess Latifa's capture was deafening. For weeks, there was no official word from the UAE. But then, her pre-recorded video surfaced. A haunting 40-minute message detailing her life under constant surveillance, her failed escape, and her fears of being killed if returned. In the video, she stated, "If you are watching this video, it's not such a good thing. Either I'm dead or I'm in a very, very, very bad situation." The video ignited a global outcry. Human rights organizations, including Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, demanded immediate proof of life and her release. The United Nations human rights body initiated an investigation into the matter. In February 2021, the BBC aired a panorama program featuring secret video messages from Latifa, recorded during her captivity. In these videos, she described being held against her will in a villa, with no access to medical help or legal counsel. She pleaded for international assistance, stating, "I am a hostage, and this villa has been converted into a jail." The UK Foreign Secretary at the time, Dominic Raab, described the footage as deeply troubling and called for the UAE to provide proof of life. The UN also requested evidence that Latifa was still alive and safe. In response, the Dubai royal family released a statement claiming that Latifa was being cared for at home and that she was safe. However, this did little to quell international concerns. In June 2021, photos emerged of Latifa in public places, including a mall in Dubai and later in Spain. These images suggested that she had some degree of freedom. Subsequently, a statement issued on her behalf by law firm Taylor Wessing stated that she was free to travel and requested privacy. Despite these developments, many human rights advocates remain skeptical about the extent of her freedom and well-being. The hashtag #FreeLatifa campaign, which had lasted over 3 years, was brought to an end in August 2021 after her cousin Marcus Sabri met with her and confirmed she was well. Princess Latifa's case has cast a spotlight on the treatment of women in the UAE, particularly within the royal family. It raises critical questions about autonomy, human rights, and the lengths to which powerful individuals will go to maintain control. As the world continues to watch, the story of Princess Latifa serves as a stark reminder of the ongoing struggle for freedom and justice in places where dissent is met with silence. For weeks, silence. No public statement. No press release. Not a word from the Dubai royal family. It was as if Latifa had never existed. But behind palace gates, a storm was brewing. International headlines were exploding. Missing princess. Dubai escape gone wrong. Royal kidnapping at sea. The video Latifa recorded, raw, emotional, impossible to ignore, was now viral. Human rights organizations, politicians, and global media were demanding answers. And yet, the UAE remained tight-lipped. Finally, nearly 2 months later, the silence cracked, but not from Dubai. In December 2018, a series of photos emerged. Princess Latifa, sitting stiffly beside Mary Robinson, the former UN High Commissioner for Human Rights and President of Ireland. She was smiling or trying to. According to the UAE government, this was proof that Latifa was safe and in the loving care of her family. The palace claimed she was vulnerable, suffering from mental illness, and had been exploited by outsiders. Robinson herself parroted the narrative, calling Latifa a troubled young woman who was now recovering in peace. But something was off. The photos were staged, the background sterile, Latifa's eyes vacant. She wasn't wearing makeup. Her clothes looked picked for her. She said nothing. Critics immediately called foul. Human Rights Watch condemned the photos as propaganda. UN experts demanded direct access to Latifa without government supervision. The BBC aired documentaries. Journalists traced every possible clue. And through it all, the palace insisted, nothing to see here. But there was everything to see, if you knew where to look. Robinson would later express regret, claiming she was misled and manipulated by the royal family, that she was flown in, fed a script, and shown only what they wanted her to see. And yet, no one could reach Latifa. No interviews, no sightings, no voice. She had been erased in broad daylight. But the world wasn't done listening. Then another rupture. In early 2021, secret video messages smuggled out of Dubai reached the BBC and other human rights groups. The world was shocked.
Want to support us and appreciate our craft? Click like, comment, and hit the subscribe button now.
Latifa was alive. She looked older, thinner, weary, but unmistakably her. In a series of whispered videos, she revealed she was being held in a villa converted into a prison. Guards monitored her 24/7. She had no access to the outside world. Windows were sealed, doors locked. "I'm a hostage," she said. This villa has been converted into a jail. All the windows are barred. There's 5 policemen outside and 2 women inside. I can't even go outside to get fresh air. She spoke in hushed tones, fearing discovery. Every word was a risk. She spoke of the ambush at sea, her capture, her forced return. She described tranquilizers, confinement, isolation. I just want to be free, she whispered. I just want to live my life. The videos detonated across the globe. The UN demanded proof of life. The UK and US issued formal statements. Amnesty International launched new campaigns. Even celebrities like Paris Hilton and Madonna tweeted in support. But the UAE continued its charade of silence. In a monarchy built on appearances, cracks were starting to show. Still, Latifa remained locked away. But this time, she wasn't entirely alone. The videos had been passed along by a secret network. Friends, activists, former employees, who risked everything to smuggle out her truth. And their defiance had turned the world's eyes back toward Dubai. But justice? Still far out of reach. Until someone from the inside slipped up. In 2021, something unexpected happened. Latifa reappeared. A photograph surfaced. Then another. And another. In one, she was sitting at a mall cafe in Dubai. In another, standing near a Spanish airport. Later, she was seen boarding a commercial flight. At first, people thought they were fake. A trap. Old photos recycled. But they were real. Latifa was free, sort of. Through a tangled web of diplomatic backchannels, legal pressure, and media scrutiny, she had been granted limited freedom. She wasn't imprisoned anymore, but she also wasn't allowed to speak publicly, travel freely, or explain what had happened. Her silence was negotiated. The UAE had been cornered. Too many eyes, too much heat. In exchange for quiet, Latifa was given partial autonomy, a gilded leash. The message was clear. You can walk, but don't speak. And Latifa complied. For now. In 2022, the UN announced the case was closed. Satisfied that Latifa was leading a private life. Governments moved on. Cameras turned away. The world got bored. But not everyone forgot. For many human rights groups, the fight continues. Latifa's story remains a symbol, not just of royal control, but of the hidden violence beneath luxury's shine. Because this wasn't just one woman's escape. It was a system exposed, a kingdom challenged. And though Latifa has said little since her reappearance, one truth lingers. She may have been silenced, but the world heard her anyway. Months passed, and silence reigned. Princess Latifa was once again a ghost in her own life. Disappeared, hidden from the world by a regime that insisted everything was fine. No official charges. No confirmed location. No rights. No voice. Just whispered rumors and staged photos. In early 2021, nearly 3 years after her forced return to Dubai, a chilling development emerged. Secret video recordings, smuggled out of the villa where Latifa was being held, began to surface. In the clips, Latifa appeared gaunt, pale, her voice barely above a whisper. She spoke of being held alone in a locked villa with no access to the outside world. I'm a hostage, she said. This villa has been converted into a jail. All the windows are barred shut. I can't even go outside to get fresh air. The footage sparked international outrage. It confirmed what many feared. Latifa hadn't returned home safely. She had been imprisoned again, only this time with the entire world watching. Human rights organizations like Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International demanded action. The United Nations called for proof of life. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson and US officials raised concerns. The pressure mounted. Dubai, for its part, stuck to a carefully crafted script. The royal family claimed Latifa was being cared for at home, and that she was safe. Select photos were released. Latifa sitting in restaurants, posing with friends, even smiling next to a UN official. But critics pointed out the obvious. These images seemed staged, curated, devoid of context. The woman in the photos wasn't speaking freely. She wasn't being interviewed. She wasn't telling her side of the story. It was window dressing for a prison they still refused to admit existed. Even the UN was skeptical. In response to mounting evidence, they pressed the UAE for unimpeded access to Latifa. None was granted, and while world leaders issued statements of concern, there were no real consequences. Oil, trade, and diplomacy overshadowed human rights. In 2022, after more leaked videos and growing diplomatic pressure, news broke. Latifa had been granted greater freedom. She was reportedly allowed to travel. A photograph surfaced of her at Madrid airport, smiling with friends. Other images followed London, Iceland, Paris. But the truth remained blurry. Was she free? Or was this just another illusion? Some close to her claimed she now had her passport and limited freedom of movement. Others believed she was still under heavy surveillance and could not speak without permission. And through it all, Latifa herself remained silent. Not a single public interview. No statement. No freedom to tell her story without fear. But even in silence, her defiance echoes. Latifa's escape attempt, her haunting videos, and her quiet resistance have become symbols of the ongoing global struggle for women's rights, individual freedom, and transparency in the face of authoritarian power. Her voice, once nearly extinguished, sparked an international conversation. A conversation that refuses to die. Because as long as princesses need to flee for freedom, the world will keep asking, where is Latifa? And when will she finally be free, not in appearance but in truth? If the story moved you, share it. The more people who know, the harder it becomes to hide the truth. Subscribe for more true stories that were almost silenced, but weren't.